Okay, back on just for a second. Tell me whether or not you can see my screen. Can you see the presentation slide?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So the title of our 3-part series is, are you hormonal or are you just blank? And you can fill in this space with, okay, are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you stressed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like we hear a lot in the world of, well, just in the world. If you have a uterus, then you're quote unquote, you're hormonal. If you're being moody or experiencing any form of emotion. So we kind of wanted to play off of that funny comment and go there. Okay, so today we're going to talk, I'm going to introduce myself next, and then we're going to dive into what we mean by hormonal health. What does that term really mean? How hormones work, how hormones change through the menstrual cycle, so over the course of a month, how hormones change throughout the life cycle, and I'll give you just my contact info at the very end. So this is going to be the way we've structured this presentation and this 3-part series is so that this first session is very, I'm going to try to not make it dry. It's going to be juicy, but it may feel like a 5th grade anatomy class. So if you have any questions, I feel like this will probably be a review for a lot of us. Feel free to put them in the chat box. Morgan will be able to read the chat box to me, though I won't be able to see it here. Okay, good. So who am I? I'm Kyla. It's nice to meet everybody. I have my master's in nutrition and exercise physiology. I'm also a strength and conditioning specialist and a corrective exercise specialist. Marina, who is here, is my director at my dietetic internship. So coming September 2021, hopefully, knock on wood, I'll also be a registered dietitian. So hopefully soon I will have more letters after my name than in my name. We'll be doing okay. Let's dive in. So what do we mean by hormonal health? Okay, so on the side, we see a diagram of the body. There's a lot of different body systems, right? We know the nervous system, the circulatory system, the digestive system. We're going to talk a little bit about each of them throughout the presentation, but we're really going to be focusing on the endocrine system. As a whole, the body works in harmony, and all of the body systems work in harmony. When they are working well together, we have what's called health, right? We have a good state of health. When something is working on overtime, when something is taking a day off, we may have some complications, right? We might get sick. We might have a disorder. Something else is going on here. So what is the endocrine system? The endocrine system is specifically a system of glands that produce and secrete hormones that the body then uses for a number of different things. What are hormones? Well, they're kind of like the chemical messengers in the body. They basically tell all of the other organs what to do. So they're responsible for growth, development, metabolism, sexual function, reproduction, mood, you name it. A hormone probably is having something to do with it. So what does it mean when like our hormones are quote unquote out of balance? You've probably heard that in media. In the media, it's kind of a trendy way of saying something's going on here. So out of balance might refer to something being overproduced or underproduced in the body. It also could be when a gland is overactive, right? It's working on overdrive, it's being very productive, or underactive if the body's having trouble using that hormone or producing that hormone, or maybe the body's having trouble excreting it or eliminating it. It goes through a 2-step process. Hormones get inactivated. If you think of a little guy with like a hat, he only like functions when he has his hat on. They'll have their hat on, but then the liver takes the hat off, and now it just kind of sits there until it's let go out of the body. So if your body is having trouble taking that hat off, then you might have too many of those construction workers running around in the body. Okay, very weird way of explaining that, but so if your body is over or underproducing a hormone, then that may cause disruptions in sleep cycles. You may notice a weight gain or weight loss. You may get diabetes. You may notice you're having trouble with fertility. You may have weak bones, etc. A lot of different things are influenced by your hormonal health. So, what influences your hormonal health? Your hormones change and may fluctuate for a number of reasons: puberty, aging, pregnancy. Your environment can cause hormones to go up and down, levels go up and down. Your nutrition really impacts it also, exercise, sleep. Birth control is a main one, which we will talk about in our second part of this 3-part presentation. These can all impact hormones. And knowing what influences your hormones helps us to better understand how to regulate them. So we're going to talk about these specific hormones today. Again, it's very science-based today, but then we will give you some concrete how to help X, Y, and Z in the next session, I promise. So we're going to start with estrogen. There are 3 types of estrogen. We're not going to get too into the nitty gritty. It's produced by the ovaries. Normally, estrogen helps to maintain a healthy and balanced menstrual cycle. It helps you to maintain a healthy pregnancy to term, and it also keeps your bones strong. Kind of something interesting to think about. If you have too little estrogen being produced in the body, your period may become less frequent or stop altogether. You may experience trouble sleeping, low sex drive, which is libido, mood swings, hot flashes, etc. If your body is either overproducing it or it's not leaving the body on time, then an excess in estrogen can cause worsening PMS symptoms. You can experience fibrocystic breasts, fatigue, loss of sex drive again, and it is also linked to anxiety and depression. So how does your body get rid of extra hormones, extra estrogen? Okay. It actually, like we said, the liver kind of takes on or off a hat, it inactivates it, and then it is excreted from the body, either a little poop emoji or through the urine. Is there a question, Morgan? Oh, okay. I thought you took yourself off mute. That's my fault. All right. So through the poop emoji or through the urine, you'll see that that's pretty much the case for most of these hormones. So now we're going to talk about progesterone. What is progesterone? This is an interesting hormone. I thought this was really cool when I was doing some additional research for this presentation. Estrogen or progesterone is produced by the adrenal glands, which kind of sit right on top of your kidneys. Super cool. And then also it is produced after ovulation. So after the egg leaves, it takes with it what I call like a corpus luteum. So you can think of like Dora the Explorer leaving, and then she's got her backpack, right? With all of the tools to have a successful journey. Progesterone is kind of like what's going with it. In normal function, it helps to thicken the uterine lining for the specific purpose of implantation of the fertilized egg. So it helps to make sure the egg stays healthy until it's fertilized, and then it helps to give it a nice fluffy place to stay. It is also produced by the placenta if fertilization does occur. So if there's too little progesterone in the body, you may find that there's irregular periods, you may miss a period, you may have spotting, pain in the abdomen during pregnancy, miscarriage can occur. And since progesterone and estrogen kind of work together, if you have low progesterone, you may have high estrogen levels. It can also contribute to low sex drive and weight gain, etc. If you have too much, there's actually not too much research, or there's not too much that is negatively impacted if you have high progesterone levels. So if the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum, the little backpack, gets emptied out, it basically disintegrates, and progesterone levels fall off, okay? Testosterone is also produced by the ovaries. Pretty cool. In normal function, testosterone helps to regulate your mood. It also helps to balance estrogen, and it is a key player in maintaining proper bone health and muscle mass. If there's not enough testosterone being produced, then you may have, again, low sex drive, reduced muscle and bone strength, fatigue, infertility, etc. If there's too much, you may notice acne, male pattern hair growth or thinning of hair, irregular periods, mood swings. It's also been associated with obesity and infertility or experiencing PCOS. A lot of these symptoms are very similar to what you may experience with PCOS. And that's because the people who have PCOS oftentimes have higher testosterone levels. Okay. So testosterone is supposed to be metabolized by the liver, broken down, the hat comes off, and then it leaves the body through the urine or the poop emoji. Okay. All right. So next we're going to go into insulin. Insulin is secreted by your pancreas. Okay. It's this little guy up in here. Okay. Normal function, insulin helps your body to bring in blood sugar. Blood sugar goes from the blood into the muscles to be used. Kind of like if you're going to the grocery store, right? The grocery store could be your bloodstream, and then you're bringing buckets or bags of sugar home with you to be used at home. So we're going into the muscle to use everything, right? At home or in the muscle. Okay. If your body is producing too little insulin, then you may have high blood sugar, okay, because think the grocery store, there's going to be a lot of sugar staying at the grocery store. You may get tired because there's no sugar to use at home, right? Overweight, excessive thirst. These can all be symptoms associated with type 1 diabetes also. If your body is producing too much, you may have, or you're bringing too much home, there's not going to be enough in the grocery store, right? There's not going to be a lot in the blood, low blood sugar. Over time, if your body is continually producing a ton of insulin, your body may get desensitized, okay? It becomes insulin resistant. Think of a child care worker who is very used to having 20 kids running around. They're kind of like, yeah, it's no big deal at all. Your body kind of does something like that. And it's like, it's fine. Everything's fine. So you become insulin resistant. And this is something that is often seen in type 2 diabetes, okay? So how does your body get rid of insulin? Again, metabolized by the liver, goes out through the body. We're going to talk about melatonin. Later on in our series, we're going to be talking about nutrition. So insulin, right? We're talking about the menstrual cycle and cycle syncing. So that's where our other hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone come into play. We're also going to dive in deep about stress and the importance of sleep. So that's why we're talking about melatonin here. Melatonin is produced in the brain by our pineal gland. It says, hello, let's sleep. Melatonin helps the body to know when it's time to rest. Okay, it helps you get very restful, deep sleep. If not enough is being produced, then it might be a little bit more difficult to sleep. If you have very high levels of melatonin in the body, you may experience drowsiness, headache, reduced core temperature, which is pretty cool, and at really extreme levels, in combination with estrogen, melatonin can inhibit ovulation. So we can see problems with fertility as a result of having an overproduction of melatonin, being super, super sleepy, okay? It's also metabolized by the liver and excreted through the body. We're seeing a trend here, right? Hormones get broken down and then they leave. Cortisol, our stress hormone. It's produced by the adrenal gland, and it helps to regulate blood sugar, blood pressure, which is why we see high blood pressure if someone's excessively stressed, right? It also helps to regulate metabolism and can help the development of a fetus during pregnancy, which I didn't know. So here, if you have too little stress, or too little cortisol, we want less stress in general. Very, very, very low levels of cortisol have been associated with a rare condition called adrenal insufficiency, which can cause fatigue and weight loss and mood swings. Ideally, for all of these, we want to stay within normal range, right? We don't want to be dropping too low. We don't want to be going too high. So less stress is good. Less stress doesn't mean inappropriate levels of cortisol. Does that make sense? Okay. So if there's too much being produced, then you may experience changes in your menstrual cycle. Weight changes also have been associated with cortisol, high cortisol, and increased blood sugar. High cortisol levels have also been linked to anxiety and depression. Take a reflection for yourself of the last year. Have you been very, very stressed? Have you noticed any anxiety or changes in mood, depression, etc.? You may kind of be able to associate times of stress, high cortisol, and higher anxiety. Okay, how does your body get rid of it? Metabolized by the liver, excreted from the body. Okay, so we're gonna move on from how do hormones work and talk about how your hormones may fluctuate throughout the month, throughout the menstrual cycle. The typical menstrual cycle is about 28 days in length, but anything from 21 to 35 days is still considered normal. Little plug here, Morgan, you can refresh my memory on the Planned Parenthood app that is for tracking your period, but you can use Flow Tracker also. Wonderful app that they offer so many services and it follows you throughout your entire life cycle. So before puberty, all the way up past menopause, you can track mood changes, hydration, sleep patterns, and get recommendations from health professionals. Go ahead.
Yeah, ours is called Spot On. So it does the same, it kind of does the same stuff where you could track all of that, your period, how light, how heavy, how you're feeling. There's like, and then it's all little cute emojis.
They also have like the birth control tracking.
Yeah. Oh, also a fun fact about the Spot On app is if you say you skip like a pill or you miss your shot, it'll tell you what to do in the event of that. Yeah, little handy thing.
I love that. So you have a lot of resources to use to track your menstrual cycle. 10 out of 10 recommend downloading both. See how you feel, see which one makes more sense to you, which feels a little bit more intuitive, and then going from there. Okay, so let's talk about how our hormones change through the menstrual cycle, how they cycle through the cycle. So we start off with your menstrual phase when you get your period. During this time, estrogen and progesterone levels both take a nice little dip. They take a dive. Then we lead into our follicular phase where FSH, FSH, and estrogen and luteinizing hormone all start to come back up. This is after your period has ended. Okay, we're on the rise. Up to the point of ovulation where estrogen levels peak, luteinizing hormone continues to rise, testosterone begins to rise also, the egg is released, things are happening. If you do not become pregnant, then progesterone levels continue to rise and then they start to fall. In the luteal phase, estrogen will begin to fall. If you do become pregnant, then progesterone and estrogen levels will keep going up. But like I said, if you don't become pregnant, we're going to take a nice loop right around and you're going to get your period again. Estrogen levels fall and it looks like this. Ta-da. So these are all the things that are happening. Okay. We see down here, these are our phases. Menses, we go into the follicular phase. This is when everything peaks, right? Ovulation. And then if you don't become, and then we have the luteal phase. And if you don't become pregnant, then everything takes a nice little dip right in here. And we go back to menses. Get your period. It's a great time. Okay. Continuing on. We're going to talk more about the cycle when we talk about cycle syncing in our third session of this series, okay? But like we said, this is a session focused on laying the groundwork of what's going to be mentioned later on. So you will see this diagram, you will see this again later on. This helps you to understand why we're going to be changing the things that we are, why we're adding the foods that we are at different times in the hormonal cycle, to kind of regulate how hormones are going all up and around, okay? So let's talk about how hormones change throughout the life cycle. We're going to start around puberty, and then things stay pretty steady, right, for the most part, until pregnancy. And then afterwards, we have a number of hormonal changes that happen in perimenopause and menopause. So let's start at the top. So before puberty, your endocrine system is it's just hanging out, right? But then we have gonadotropin releasing hormones, which start the production of our sex hormones. We've got estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all the things. Okay. That's when puberty happens. Okay. Luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone starts as well here. That's when you get your period for the first time. Sometimes, and we'll talk about this later, sometimes some people may get their period earlier, some people may get their period later, right? This is just an average that we reference. And this can also be associated with the other hormones at play, right? We see that our whole body works together in harmony. And the hormones also impact one another too. Okay, so life cycle or lifestyle, weight, other factors, environmental factors, genetic factors can all contribute to when you get your period, when puberty starts. We'll go in more depth later on. Don't want to get too into the weeds there. Okay. So it stays relatively similar. You start having your menstrual cycle, the cycle we just talked about, all the way up until fertilization does occur. You do become pregnant. The key hormones at play here, and the hormones that rise or fall, are estrogen, progesterone, HCG, and HPL. So estrogen and progesterone help to make a nice home for the developing fetus, for the fertilized egg. They help to contribute to a healthful pregnancy, as well as HCG helps to maintain a healthy pregnancy. And what's neat is HPL helps to provide specifically nutrition to the developing fetus. Okay, so these are just the hormones that are coming up in conversation during pregnancy. Okay, so we'll talk about some of the nutrition components. We'll talk about how exercise and how sleep impact these levels later on again. Okay. And then we go up to perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Menopause as a whole it typically is considered right when you're experiencing those symptoms, but you're experiencing the symptoms of like hot flashes, etc. at the time when your body's getting used to this gradual decline of hormones. That can happen in a phase that can be either a few months long or up to 8 years long. This whole phase, when you're experiencing those symptoms, is called perimenopause. Okay, gradually you'll get your period less frequently, up until the point where you've not had a period for a duration of 12 months. The day that you hit not having a period for 12 months, if you get it in month 11, then you're still in perimenopause. But the moment that you are on the other side of that 12 months, that's menopause. After that point, then you're in postmenopause. Does that make sense? So perimenopause can last for a very long time. That's when you're actually experiencing the symptoms of menopause. And then menopause happens, you don't have your period for 12 months, your body stops releasing the egg, not as much estrogen coming from the ovaries, right? And no progesterone. And then what's interesting is the ovaries can still produce testosterone, and then we're into postmenopausal time. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, great. All right. So average onset of menopause is 51, though this can vary. This can change because of your environment. This can change because of genetics. This can be influenced by your lifestyle, your nutrition, etc. And we will talk about some non-hormonal strategies that people will use to help maintain better hormonal health throughout your entire life. And kind of some people will want to delay menopause, right? Ideally, we don't want to have a lot of hot flashes, or we want to ease the symptoms. So we'll talk about nutrition interventions later on. This is kind of what this looks like on a scale, okay, on a graph. So like we said, perimenopause can last for a few months up to 10 years, and typically it begins around the age of 40. So we start to see that gradual decline of hormones, through this time frame between 30 or between 40 and 50. This is when your body is experiencing the symptoms because you're getting used to this gradual decline in hormones until the point which you may have, this is menopause officially, and then post-menopause, all these levels stay relatively consistent. So it's easier to manage. You may not experience as many symptoms as when your body is getting used to this gradual decline or relatively quick decline. Okay. So now you know what we mean by hormonal health. You know how some of these key hormones work. You know how hormones change throughout the menstrual cycle. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense now compared to in 5th grade, right? And you also know how hormones change across the life cycle. So in the next 2 sessions, we're going to talk about some of the influencing factors and how to improve your hormonal health using non-hormonal strategies like nutrition, stress management, sleep hygiene, and then the Planned Parenthood team is also going to talk about how birth control impacts your hormonal health and what's really going on there. And then in our last session together, we're going to talk about cycle syncing. You may have heard of cycle syncing in the media. This is the idea that you can kind of put these 2 calendars of how your hormones change and your life cycle or your lifestyle, put them into one calendar and use your nutrition and exercise to your advantage to improve your hormonal health and maybe not experience as many PMS symptoms. So, and then we'll also talk about, again, how birth control impacts this cycle. So at this point, this is how you can contact me, okay? Instagram, TikTok, the World Wide Web, email, all of the things. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open it up for questions, okay? All right. Feel free to either type in the chat or unmute yourself if you have any questions at all. Like I said, this session is definitely a bit more on the 5th grade anatomy class level and physiology class level. And then next time we will be giving you some more concrete details as to how you can use nutrition to your benefit, how you can change up your diet, add more diet diversity, and move a little bit more to impact your hormones. Any questions?
First off, I just want to say thank you so much. That presentation just, I don't know, I learned a lot from that. And just even like the menopausal stuff, the graphs are very helpful as well. So like just to see like where I am right now in my age and to know that those symptoms could be starting as soon as like kind of situation, it's just nice to see all that.
Absolutely. No, I think that we end up getting a lot of education on what happens once a month in your period. We talk about our period all of the time, but what about the rest of the time? Okay. I feel like pregnancy for me was a big question mark up until the point of like, honestly, Instagram sharing like women's pregnancy stories. I didn't know half of the things that actually happen. I thought your body just deflated afterwards. No, that does not happen. And being able to discuss like what perimenopause looks like, what it entails, how soon, you're right, how soon it starts. I think it opens up a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I feel like this is like destigmatizing a lot of things that we want to know growing up, learning about this, you know, especially, you know, people that have a menstrual cycle to go through. It's helpful to know these things, you know, even now, even if it's not during when we're learning as we're growing, but
definitely
still have a life cycle to go.
I'm really excited for us all to talk about the nutrition and the exercise component of this too. Like, okay, I know what cortisol is, but how do I make sure I don't get super, super stressed? How do I use stress management on my side? I know what melatonin is, but like, do I really need this many hours of sleep? Yes, you do. You know,
or the different patterns that happen throughout your entire cycle. You'll see a pattern of like, I'm more tired during this time, or I'm more hungry, and those types of things. And so can't wait to learn more about that.
Definitely. And the way estrogen, we'll talk a little bit more about like how estrogen and cortisol work together, or how estrogen and melatonin work together. But a very common symptom is insomnia before your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
And okay, why is that happening? So we'll talk a little bit about that.
So exciting. Yeah.
Perimenopause was no fun, Marina says.
Yeah, looking forward to the next one too. I think we'll have a date out there pretty soon, probably another monthly, just so we can get folks to join if that works for your schedule.
So yeah, definitely. So if everybody, that's my Instagram handle. You can find me on Instagram or on Facebook. Definitely follow. What is it, Morgan? It's PPNO. It's in my story on Instagram. So if you want to find me on Instagram, click on the story and you'll find them as well. That way you can register for the next webinar and get those takeaways of how to do X, Y, and Z. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And everybody have a nice day. It was so nice seeing y'all. It was just nice hearing about things that like even I need more information on. It's just nice to be educated every once in a while, and that's why we do this. So thank you so much for joining.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Very grateful.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.